Morning, Captain. Morning, cadets. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cadet 3rd Class Vandegriff, and this morning I'll brief you on unreliability within the first cadet wing. Next slide, please. Quick overview, I'm going to tell you what I mean by unreliability, how unreliability can affect the mission, some of the causes, some of the solutions, how to implement some of those solutions when wrapped up this summer. Next slide, please. What do I mean by unreliability? Unreliability is a really broad term, and that's exactly how I'm going to approach it. It can come in the forms of missing suspenses, missing deadlines, not showing up to meetings, not showing up to different events, and that's exactly what I mean by unreliability. And unreliability can, as you can indicate it right here, it could possibly end in bloodshed. Sad to say, but it's true. Most of you may remember Arnold Air Society tried to go to Seward last semester to visit a World War II fort in King's Head. And initially what happened is we were all supposed to rendezvous at a certain time. An individual cadet was late, which caused us to leave Anchorage late, which caused us to get to Seward late, and then by the time we initiated our hike, we got stuck in the tides as indicated up here in this picture. We were trapped up in the cliffs and it was a complete mission failure because one individual was late. Also, I'm seeing a lot of this in field training preparation. Our mission is to receive objectives from Cadet Blahud, and our mission is to take those objectives and implement them in the lead lab on Friday. And whenever an individual does not memorize a warrior knowledge or a drill, depending on what the situation is, we all show up to lead lab and we fail as a whole unit. The mission fails. Next slide, please. One thing I really like to stress is that unreliability isn't caused because individuals are unmotivated or they simply don't care. I think a huge portion of it is that people are stressed. These young individuals are tasked with many different scenarios of keeping up with the individual social lives, including keeping up with family members and friends and family, and also trying to work relationships with their significant others. And also, there's physiological factors for these individuals. People in the age bracket 18 to 22, their circadian clock is actually boosted in the evenings. So when individuals have to get up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. to make it to PT, they really should be going to bed at 8. But their circadian clock boosts, so possibly they're not going to be able to sleep till 10, 12, something like that, and have to do it all over again. So all this builds up into fatigue. Also, as we can all attest to, we're undergoing huge course loads in academics, and ROTC only adds that much more to the factor. These are just some fun facts for you. When individuals are undergoing fatigue, which is caused by lack of sleep, 1 in 5 objectives will be completely forgotten. It's inevitable, it will happen every time. So keep that in mind. Also, some more fun facts. If people are over 17 hours, they have the equivalent blood alcohol content of 0.05. And if they're up over 22 hours, they'll have blood alcohol content of 0.1. So this just reinstates the fact that lack of sleep can really affect your judgment. Next slide, please. Also, another large cause, I believe, is communication. As we can all attest to, our email boxes are constantly flooded with information, and a lot of times we have to sit through that information to pick out the most pertinent data. An example is myself on the C-17 flight. I got an email from Cadet Ludington, so I knew I had to open it up. I sifted through the email real quick. I was like, all right, this is the uniform. This is where we're going to rendezvous at. This is the date. All right, cool. I close the email down. And it turns out they actually changed the time. And if it wasn't for a good wingman, I wouldn't have been there and the mission probably would have failed. Also, importance. You got to kind of recognize whether these cadets are recognized, know the importance of the task or whatever you delegated to them. Because you're supposed to be a student first and then cadet second. So a lot of times these individuals have to prioritize and put a certain RTC task at the bottom of the priority list, when initially if it could affect the entire mission, everyone fails. If they would have known that, they probably would have moved it up their priority list. Also, some cadets coming right out of high school, they're maybe still living with their parents, maybe getting treated like babies, they don't necessarily recognize the value of being highly reliable. And that's our job as leaders and POC to reinforce that it's not going to work in Air Force, and it's not going to work in the 1st Cadet Wing. Also, on the rare occasion, some individuals lack the willingness or the ability to accept responsibility for their actions. This is a very slim number of people, and they have integrity issues and believe they need to be spoon-fed information, and that is not your job as a leader. Next slide, please. Solutions. Of course, there's always negative reinforcement for solutions. This can come in the form of memorandums. You can have individuals reporting to you, and there's also Form 341. I actually think this would be a great idea to implement with this first cadet wing. We've seen a lot of this in field training preparation. Whenever I jack up, POC will say, give me form 341, this is what you did wrong. So this way I can record exactly what I did wrong, and I know I jacked something up. So far there hasn't been any other occurrences on my part of the same issue. Of course, and then there's also positive reinforcement. Like Captain always says, give them money and time off. If that's applicable, go ahead and go for it. Probably won't be. So recognition would be another good way to involve positive reinforcement. Should be reinforced as a minimum standard, though I don't believe there's any problem recognizing a cadet for saying, hey, good job, I can always count on you, keep it up. Next slide, please. Make your standards clear. I've been here 3 years and I've never once had a cadet superior at a midterm feedback, initial feedback, whatever, set standards for missing deadlines, missing suspenses, or any events. So I mean, I always try my best to be reliable, but however, no one's ever set standards in place initially, and I think if this was implemented, it really improved the first cadet wing. Another good way to come up with solutions, obviously, you can brainstorm with your subordinates. This way they can recognize the problem, and since they know what the problem is, they can possibly prevent future occurrences in the beginning. Also, everyone is able to collaborate to find the best possible solution, and cadets will be involved in the planning. Next slide, please. Plan your solutions. You hear this all the time, know your subordinates. I can attest to this. I've been guilty of jumping to conclusions, so try not to jump to conclusions. Every time I see an individual coming late or whatever, I'd initially think that that's lazy, he's just sleeping in, or what have you, he's not being a good cadet, whatever, until that happened to me. I was coming to an ROTC event, I was on track to be here 15 minutes early. It turns out I witnessed a cadet get in an accident, so I obviously stopped, rendered aid, and then I showed up like 5 minutes late to this meeting with the captain and the colonel were there, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be getting dirty stares and hating on me and all this, but turns out the colonel was just like, oh, here's what we're doing, go ahead and sit down, you see, get caught up. I was like, well, that's cool, you didn't do anything bad to me, at least I didn't know. And then also, remember that you're punishing behavior, you're not punishing the person. And once again, I said set standards for missing those deadlines, recognize why your cadets may be missing deadlines, but however, make sure to enforce that standard with 100% consistency. Next slide, please. All right, quick summary. Gave you an overview, told you what I was going to tell you, gave you some possible causes, some of the solutions, and how to apply the solutions. Next slide, please. This concludes my briefing. Are there any questions?